Hi, I'm Shelley Smith with Waldorf Handwork Educators, and today I'll show you how to make a little needle felt ghost necklace. This is a great parent circle craft activity as you're getting ready for Night of Delight and Halloween festivities. If you're planning to do this project with your students or your own children, I do not recommend needle felting with children younger than sixth grade for safety reasons. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Here are the supplies you'll need to get started. I've got some white wool roving. This is about 3 grams of wool and it measures about 6 or 7 inches long. I've got just a tiniest little bit of black roving for the eyes. I have about 26 inches of embroidery floss to make the necklace, a little sewing needle here, and my felting needle. And then I'm also going to be working with a clean, dry kitchen sponge for my felting pad. Many of you may not have a proper felting pad at home, so I'm going to show you how to use a kitchen sponge instead. So let's go ahead and get started. To begin, I'm going to take this strip of roving here and I'm going to divide it in half. We could probably make 2 ghosts out of this one length of wool here. And I'm going to take a little bit more off of this, maybe about a quarter, and peel that off. And I'm going to roll this into a ball. It's nice to have just a little bit of something to get us started. So I'm just rolling that up like a little ball. And I'm going to go ahead and place it on my sponge and start felting. So I'm going to be careful, of course, not to poke my fingers. And if we look really closely at the felting needle, the barbs are what are doing the work for us. And they're only about a quarter of an inch on the needle. If you look really closely on your own, you'll see that. So you really don't have to poke very deeply into your wool. Just about a quarter or a half an inch is plenty. And we'll start going around and felting this little ball. Now the sponge is there to protect my hands and to protect my needle so I don't hit the table and accidentally break my needle. But I'm not going to intentionally try to poke into the sponge. If I do accidentally, that's okay, but we're not going to try to poke into the sponge. We're only going into the wool. And we don't have to felt this too much. I just want it to hold the general shape of a ball. It doesn't need to be a firm ball by any means. Just enough to hold its shape. Okay, great. So now we're going to take the rest of our wool here and we're going to sort of fluff it out and we're going to stretch it over that little ball and just fold it in half. So it already looks like a little ghost. So I've got these side bits here. I'm going to bring those in and you can already see my ghost starting to form and take shape. So we're coming back to our sponge here and we're going to work our way around and felt that wool. You'll notice that I'm continuously turning my wool on the sponge. I don't want to stay in one direction for too long or it can start to stick to the sponge. So we're going to keep it moving and we're just randomly poking in all different directions, in all different areas. What's happening here is that the barbs of my felting needle, as they go in and out of the wool, they're tangling the fibers together. And as they tangle, they start to bind together to make felt. So we just want to tangle them up and get them to bond together. have a little swoop-de-doo here, so I think I'm going to straighten that out. And I can also hold it in my hand if you're comfortable and work my way around like this. I'm being really careful, thinking about what's on the other side when I put my needle into the wool. So my fingers and my hand are well out of the way. And I'm intentionally holding it so that I can't poke myself. But if you feel more comfortable on the sponge, that is just fine. Okay, my head has started to take shape. My ghost is taking shape. I'm going to do a little bit of work to give it just sort of the hint of a neck. We don't want it to look too human. If we pull it in really tight, it starts to look a little too human. But we do want to have just the gesture of a neck, like I've done here in my example. Just a little bit of a neck. So I'm going to start to work around, and I think I'll hold it this way, and just start to bring it in a little bit around the neck area, not too much. Okay, great. Now it's time to add the eyes. So my head, it's not very firm. It's still, you can see it's still quite soft and squishy, which is great. We want these to be nice and soft. And we're gonna work it a little bit more after we add the eyes. So let me show you how to do that. I'm gonna take off just a little wisp, just a tiny little wisp of the black. And what I like to do, because we're working with such a small amount and I want my eyes to be nice and round, I'll pinch one end here and I start to kind of spiral that bit of wool around in a circle. I find this kind of sets it up for success with having a nice circular round eye. So I have this little, it's almost like a little loop. You see how it's still hollow in the center? That's okay. It's going to felt just fine. Now I'm going to decide where my face should go. I think I'll put it here. And I'll place my eye, and I know that this is too big. I want it to be at this stage bigger than my intended eye will be, because once I start felting it, it's going to shrink very quickly. So let's watch and see. So my eye got very, very small there, really, really quick with just a few pokes. But I also notice sometimes when I'm making the eye, depending how much shaping I need to do, it suddenly looks very recessed or indented into the face. And so I might just want to go around and work the white wool a little more after I add that eye in, to balance it out a little bit. Okay, I'm ready for eye number 2. Just the tiniest bit is all you need. And I'll wrap that around in a spiral. Place it where I like it. Here's another little trick that you can do. And you see how I have this long wisp of black here? And I want to work that into my eye. So I can take my needle and just sort of twirl that fiber of wool around my needle like this, and then put it in. I find that really helpful when I have a wayward fiber. Sometimes a few fibers sticking out is kind of cute. It might look like eyelashes. Okay, so I've got two eyes. I want to make sure they're balanced. I feel like my left one is a little smaller than my right, so I might just work the right one a little bit more to balance it out. And I might work the white just a little more too. Now with felting, there almost is no end point. You can keep going and going and going, and it will get more and more firm, and it will also keep getting smaller and smaller. For this project, we don't need this to be very firm. We want it to hold together, but it doesn't need to be like a rock hard ball. So just a little bit goes a long way. I think my ghost looks pretty cute. I like them to have a really nice kind of round head personally, but they can take all different shapes and sizes, whatever your creativity inspires. And here's my little ghost. Now let's add the necklace. So I have my piece of embroidery thread here, and I have a sharp needle, and I'm just going to poke right through the top of the head, maybe the top third of the head. And I'll bring my two tails together, and I can just make a simple little overhand knot. And my little ghost is ready to bring joy to a young child at Night of Delight, or be a little holiday decor. So I hope you enjoy this project and make lots of festive ghosts for your community.